This video I'll be showing you how to cut a button down jumpsuit joggers. So the first thing is to mark 2 inches all through like that. Then after marking, you will make use of your ruler to join all the 2 inches points I just finished marking. Then I'll go straight to the marking of the neck. For the marking of the neck, you mark 3.5 horizontally, then 3 inches vertically. The neck is supposed to be 3 by 3, and I'll show you why we mark 3.5 instead of 3. So that's the 3.5 points. Then you mark your back measurement from that line. Then you go down by 1 inch. So the back measurement was actually 7.5, not 7 inches. So that was why I actually marked it twice. I initially marked 7 inches. Then you come down by 8 inches for your chest line. So after marking those 2 points, I'll be joining with a broken line as well, and that will be our chest line. So the next line I'll be marking is actually our half length, but before then I'll be marking the bust point. The bust point is 10 inches from the top. We don't really need the bust point that much, we just needed to know where our dart would stop, because we'll be making a center dart on the front and also on the back piece. Then I'll be marking the half length, which is 16 inches. Everything I'm marking horizontally, I'm not actually adding the sewing allowance, and I'll be adding that when I'm actually doing the cutting on the fabric, and I'll be showing you. Then I'll mark 1 inch all through like that from that point, and that is the buttonhole line. So the buttonhole line is actually 1 inch wide, but the buttonhole line is just the 1 inch line. But the buttonhole position itself is the midpoint between both lines. Where the buttons will actually be is the buttonhole positions. So that buttonhole position is very important because that is the center of the front and also the center of the back. So when we are cutting the back, I will be cutting the back from that center line. So I make that center line all through like that, and that will be our starting point when we are taking all our horizontal measurements. So to take our back measurement, I'll start from that buttonhole line and I'll mark my 8 inches because the back is actually 7.5, so I added half a sewing allowance. So I took that measurement and I also take it downwards, and I use a straight line to join it like that. That is the perpendicular measurement. So I come back by 1 inch, then I make a curve to the perpendicular measurement downwards because I don't want the jumpsuit to be wide as my back full measurement. So that's that. Then I'll take my chest measurement. So I'll be dividing my tape rule into 4. My chest measurement is actually 39. So I'll be dividing my tape rule twice. That is the initial division, which would give us, I think, whatever I give us, you divide it by 2 again, then you get your chest measurement. Then for the tummy measurement, you would also divide twice. The tummy is actually 31, so I think the first division should give you 15.5. Then the second division will give you, I think, 7.75. So you mark that on the down line as well. Then I'll also be adding ½ inch for that. That means when I'm taking my dart will actually be 1/4 inch on both sides. So on joining the chest to the tummy, I'll be showing you how to get my dart. So for my dart, I'll just divide the tummy into 2 and also divide the chest into 2, and both midpoints would actually be the position of my dart. Mind you, everything I'm doing is actually from the buttonhole line now. So the buttonhole line is actually the center line of the whole fabric. So I'll join that line like that, and when I'm making my dart will end half or 1 inch before the bust line. So that is the half length, and that is the bust point. So the other line is the chest line, while the initial line is our shoulder line. So those are the lines we have for the top, and I'll come down by ½ inch, like I said, mark 1/4 inch on both sides to create my dart. Then I'll be joining to that initial point I took downwards. So that's that for the front part of the shirt. But the shirt will also have a folding inwards. You know, the shirt has folding inwards. So I'll be marking 1.5 inch from that initial line like that. So I'll mark 1.5 inch on 3 points, and that will be what will be folded inside. Every shirt has it. So you fold something inside, and that is what will be folded inside, 1.5. So what will be bended before the folding is actually ½ inch. So you first of all bend ½ inch, then you fold the remainder in. So the initial buttonhole line is 1 inch. So what will be folded would also be 1 inch after you bend the front ½ inch. And all these things I'm doing is not magic. I'll be showing you. So when we fold, that is when I'll cut off that part. I don't have to cut now. So I'll go straight to the trouser part. That's the down part. I'll mark 8 inches from the top like that, and that will be for our hip line. And from that same half length, I'll mark our crotch point, and that will be 12 inches. Every measurement I'm taking is actually measured, so you just don't follow standards like that. You take the measurement of your client and you follow through. So you start from your shoulder to your chest to your bust point to your half length to your hip, then also to your crotch. Remember, the hip is the biggest part of your legs. So that's that. So I'll be dividing my hip into 4. My hip is actually 39, and I'll be dividing that into 4. So that's my hip measurement. Then my thigh, I'll first of all transfer that hip measurement down to that part like that. Then I'll mark my thigh. My thigh is actually 23. So from that hip measurement, I marked 11.5, and I'll join to that point. Now I'll be joining to the buttonhole line. So you can see I joined to the buttonhole line. Then I'll be joining all my curve to form my shape like that. So after that, I'll be going straight to the knee. So I'll first of all mark out everything for you to see like that. And I've not actually created my flap. The trouser would have a flap, and I'll be showing you that later. So for that, for my knee, I'll go down by 23 inches. Like I said, everything was measured, so you just don't jump. So my trouser length is actually 41.5, but I'm marking 42 because ½ inch will be chopped off when I'm joining the top to the trouser. So I marked 42 for my trouser length. Then for my knee, I'll be marking 23. So I also extended the 2 inches mark I took from the beginning. So I'll be marking that before I mark my knee. So that's the 2 inches line. That 2 inches line is very important. So I'll be marking my knee. From my shoulder to my knee was actually 23.5. But since ½ inch will be chopped off, so I'm marking 23. And that was the same way we did for every other measurement. So that's my knee line. So that's my trouser length. Now this is a joggers. So the joggers would have 2.5 inches, which is our jogger band. Our jogger band is always 2.5 inches. So you mark 2.5 inches, but ½ inch would be what will be used to join the jogger band, because those remaining part of the trouser will be chopped off. So that ½ inch I would also mark, and that is for the jogger band. So that's that. So for my knee line, I'll go in by ½ inch. Then for my jogger line, I'll go in by 1 inch. So from that point, I'll take my knee measurement divided by 2. Then I'll also take my ankle measurement divided by 2. I think my ankle is 13, that is 6.5. So I'll join my knee, my hip to my knee, then my ankle to my knee as well. Then for my crotch, I will join to that ½ inch point, and I would also join to the 1 inch point as well. This I will do with my ruler, just to be sure. So I'll use my ruler to take out all the lines I made. So I'll take in the line from the ankle upwards like that. Now if you notice, everything I've been cutting, I did not add sewing allowance. So we'll be working on that later. But for the back, I'll come down by 1 inch. So I stopped at the buttonhole line. So that's for my back neck. That's also for my front neck. So the back, I stop at the buttonhole line. All those things are very important. The next thing I'll be showing you is how I got my crotch. So I'll just go down, make sure my crotch meets my hip line. So that's just that. So you'll be joining that. You'll be joining that when you are sewing. So you join that and you fold inward. while cutting the fabric for the trouser part of the jumpsuit, I went ahead and added half-inch all through for my sewing allowance. So I'll be removing the pins I used in holding it down to show you. So as you can see, the flap of the front part of the trouser is also there. So those are the allowances I left. The only part I didn't add allowance was the downline. So every other part got added by at least a half-inch all through. So that was that. So that's for the front piece. Now for the back piece, that's for the back part of the trouser. I will just fold the flap inwards like that. Then you can see all the excess half-inch added all through. Now for the top, I left at least 1 inch there, and I'll be trimming to get a perfect shape. So the edge has to be half-inch, while the crotch part has to be 1 inch. So that was what the trimming was all about there. So that's that. You can see I also cut out 2 pieces for the back as well, and that's that for the cutting. The next would be the cutting of for the upper part. There are parts we don't add any excesses, like for that button line part, the neck part, the armhole part, no excesses were added. But for the upper part, excesses of half-inch was added for the side and also for the downline. So that's just that. So the parts that don't need addition of excesses I've shown, and also the parts that need addition I've also shown. And I'll be showing you how the folding works. So the half-inch bended and the 1 inch bended inwards, then you sew on the edge like that. You do that for the other part, bend half, then bend 1, then sew on the edge, and that will amount for the excess 1.5 inches we marked in front of our initial line. Then one will overlap the other by 1 inch, and the center point is actually our buttonhole positions. And that's just all about the explanations I've been giving. Then I'll add that at the center point of each front like that, and that's that. Now for the back, I'll be placing back the part of the neck I actually cut out for the back piece, and I'll be using a tape to hold it down. So when I was cutting, I actually showed the cutting of the neck of the front and also the cutting of the neck of the back. So I'll be putting it back, then I'll be making use of my tape to hold it, because there was no other way for me to do it. Instead of drafting another pattern paper for the back, there's no point. So the only thing I'll be doing now would just be to use a tape to hold it down. So after holding it down, I'll cut all through the buttonhole line. So the buttonhole line is actually the center part of the back. So I will use a tape to hold it down, then I will cut through the buttonhole line. So that's that. So the back would actually start from the buttonhole line. As you can see, the buttonhole line is also the center point of the back piece, the buttonhole position. So I actually cut out the back neck of the back piece as well. So the armhole has no excesses of sewing allowance, even the neck and the center line. But the side, the down and the upper part all have half-inch sewing allowance added to it. I'll be removing the pins and I'll be showing you what we have here. So this is what we have. The only thing we'll be doing will be to take our dart, and that would mean folding into 2. So we'll fold the left part to the half part line and make our dart. Do the same for the right and also make our dart.